One of the things that's deeply concerning to me with AI is when we talk about reflection. I teach the three qualities of the soul that Plotinus taught in his teachings, which are abiding, reflection, and representation. So within us is the abiding function of God. And I don't know if you're familiar with what St. Francis of Assisi used to tell people when they would come to him all the time and say, "How do I find God?"
No, tell me. I want to hear this.
He said, "What you are looking for is what's looking."
Yes.
Right. And so
yep, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I've heard that. That's awesome.
That is something that religious people all over the world have been distracted from.
Yeah.
Because when you get into an ideology or an ism or a belief system, you just believe. You don't meditate on, reflect on, and ask, is it really true? And so the point I'm driving at here is that AI is now becoming such a guru figure for people that instead of spending time in themselves and with themselves, for example, one of my favorite types of meditation is contemplative meditation.
Yeah.
And I've studied it quite a lot. I took a course in contemplative meditation. It was an audio course from a Christian priest who was very, very good. For a Christian priest, he blew my mind. And for those listening, contemplative meditation, for example, I'll take a line from a poem by Rumi or something very, very deep or something, a statement by Jung, and I will sit with it. And I'll simply ask my soul to please help me understand this to its full potential. And that could go on for a week or more until my soul says that, you've got what you wanted to know. But you see, that's exactly the process that people just turn to AI for. And in 0.28 seconds, they're getting something that they don't realize is just somebody else's ideas from some website somewhere in Timbuktu or wherever, and then they believe it. And so you just go from belief to belief to belief, and you don't grow the inner relationship with your own official intelligence, not artificial intelligence. Yeah. You don't grow into the connection with God consciousness that has far more power than any AI system will ever have. But if we don't practice using it, then we just become atrophied. And Steiner warned about how these technologies would potentially undermine our spiritual development.
Yeah.
And I think that people need to be much more conscious about, AI is like a phone and a mind. They make far better tools than masters. And I think when AI starts becoming people's guru and teacher and guide, it's too childlike, because then it becomes a mommy or a daddy figure. And now you're right back in the same rabbit hole that the globalists want you in, because you're very easy to control, manipulate, and you just start believing shit like it's fact. And look what that did during COVID. That's now led to somewhere between 22 and 25 million deaths and God knows how many severe injuries. So those are things that concern me.
Yeah, well, I'm so grateful to be having this conversation, Paul, right now with you, because as I dove back into the venture capital work that I had missed when I ran a statewide campaign for 18 months, AI was the technology far and away that stood out. And I've invested in, a dozen or two AI companies since then. But what instantly fascinated me were these existential questions that you're asking. And I wrote this book to be a conversation starter. I kind of wrote this book to say, hey, wait up. Like, we're missing the point here of AI, or what the possible point could be, via hyper effectiveness and getting things done and turning to it in an addictive way like we have our other technologies. We're missing or making money, gaining power and control That's not the point of AI. Fortunately, Paul, I believe, as in this case, as is often the case, that the obstacle becomes the way here. And that's my argument in the book, is that this obstacle, quote unquote, of AI can become the way. I talk about it as a crucible that we as humans must pass through together. Now, I'm a futurist in this book, and I'm talking, this is a book written kind of for the future. I'm trying to talk about what I see as some of the outcomes here and what's happening. No one knows this for sure. I think AI is going to be so destabilizing to normal everyday life, like you said, Paul, that we will return to ourselves. This is what I'm asking. So turn away from the eye. You could almost see the Paul Chek and the Jeff Birmingham, I'm saying, avatars in the digital world, duking it out or whatever, arguing, talking, while you and I, Paul, are connecting like this, face to face, sharing a drink, sharing a meal, singing songs, connecting heart to heart. And that's gonna come through a lot of pain, unfortunately. I think it's gonna be very destabilizing for a lot of humanity. And I hope that through that destabilization, like I said, the obstacle becomes the way. We learn to use AI wisely as a reflection to help us appreciate our humanity and to like I say in the book, rehumanize ourselves.
There's something most experts are not telling you about success, health, and fulfillment. They want to sell you more tools. There's lots that you can memorize. There's lots of knowledge you can gain. But the one thing that's missing in a lot of these approaches is how to connect deeply to your soul and get inner guidance so that it is your heart guiding you and that your efforts to use those tools, skills, and knowledge are actually fulfilling because you're moving in the direction that your soul came to the world to go in. If you'd like my help and guidance to have the skills, the tools, and the interconnection to your soul so that you are sure you're moving in the right direction in life, you're welcome to join my Spirit Gym community.
That's the voyage that I think we're on. And I think AI can be a tool in doing this. At least I'm trying to paint a picture. I'm not saying this is likely. I'm not saying that I would bet on this. I'm trying to paint a picture of where we could go, a beautiful picture that I hope that we seize as a collective together.
Yeah. I think all those are possibilities. I mean, AI is, it's another technology in the hands of human beings. And I can tell you as a very experienced therapist, human beings still have a hard time with sugar, food, sex, drugs, almost anything with the power to transform, whether it be, look at the psychedelic revolution. I mean, I've had to rehab countless people that have fucked themselves up on the very medicines I use to help myself grow, heal, and get deeper into God. But, when people have access to things without wise elders to guide them and a clear sense of mission, vision, values, and the sacred, then, you're just handing TNT over to people, which is never a good idea if you don't know how to use something that powerful. But go ahead.
Can I just say one thing there, Paul? I agree with you. What do we do? Can I ask you? One of the things that so I'm kind of betting on a renaissance in human consciousness here over the next decade. And I think that there will be more structure in a good way. I'm saying structure with a lowercase s put around this. Do you agree with that? Do you see that coming? How do we do that?
Well, I think what we do is we get people like you that are deep enough and wise enough to be an elder to write books like you just did, have podcasts like this, educate people, inform people. But look, I can tell you, I've got over 63,000 students in my institute worldwide. And I've watched, after I've sat there and educated people on all aspects of holistic health, I've watched them walk right out the door and do exactly the opposite. And so, the point I'm making is no amount of education or wise elder saves anyone from the hero's journey.
Yeah.
One of the great examples of that is Chief Joseph, the chief of the Nez Perce Indians. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, I mean, vaguely. I don't know his story like you do, I bet.
Well,
Tell
I've
me.
got my mother's a famous sculptor, and you can't see it, but right over here is a beautiful bust of Chief Joseph. And my mom specializes in sculpting people who devoted their life to creating peace in the world, and he's one of them. But I'll use a brief summary of the story of Chief Joseph's life to make the point. This was back when the United States government was trying to take over all the Indians' land and force them into reservations, and this is back in the days of soldiers on horses. And Chief Joseph warned his warriors that the U.S. government and military would be impinging upon them, and that to be very, very careful to not do things like scalp them and start fights, because he said there's no way we can win against a force that big. He said we have to be careful. And so he was doing his best to guide these people. Well, sure enough, there was a skirmish, and some of the people in his tribe got killed, which happened to be the family members of some of his warriors. And so they went out and they scalped a bunch of the soldiers, the U.S. military. And then, sure enough, they put a full court press, and they chased Chief Joseph's tribe for 18 months. And he was running to try to cross the Canadian border to get away from them. They caught him, I think, something like 60 miles from the border, forced him into a reservation, and Chief Joseph died of a broken heart. And so the point I'm making is, here you see young men getting wise counsel from a very wise man who could not restrain themselves and had to go out and do exactly what young men do and young people do all the time, because they have to go on their own hero's journey. So the reality of it is we are already seeing it with transhumanism. We're seeing it with AI. We're seeing it with the third wave of psychedelic drug revival. We're seeing it with phones. We're seeing it with social media. We're seeing the problems that the medical industry has created with drugs and vaccines. And we see how many people during COVID fell right into it and didn't think for themselves and didn't listen to wise counsel. I mean, I could go on and on.